And thank you for watching another live edition of the East West Football Podcast. I am Fidel Barraza, alongside with me, like always, Jerry Martinez, Kendall Whitley. And tonight we have a special guest, former Super Bowl champion with the Seattle Seahawks, Robert Turbin. Thank you so much for joining us, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me. I'm hyped. I'm juiced. I'm excited to be on y'all podcast, man. Looks like y'all got a good thing going on.
Yeah, man.
We got to give a round of applause, man, for any Super Bowl champion that comes on. So let's hear it.
Love it. Love it. That
All right,
kind of
Robert.
sounded like how it was when we were at the Super Bowl right there.
Yeah.
Hey, we want to hear about it. So, Fidel, take it away.
All right, so let's get right into it. Robert, just what have you been up to lately?
Yeah, man, I got a lot of different things going on. Definitely keep myself busy. I feel like I live on planes, That's kind of the entrepreneurship life and just keeping busy. But my main goals now that I'm done playing football are in broadcasting, and so I made my debut on NFL Network a couple weeks ago, and I've been doing a lot of radio stuff with Sirius XM, ESPN, and I'm broadcasting all the Seahawks games in the fall. I started that last year, and so we're getting geared up to do it again this year as training camp has gotten started and everything like that. I'm going to be in Seattle a bunch, and so obviously, I also have a foundation where I'm hosting a bunch of charity events in my hometown. Grew up in Fremont, California, and I went to school at Utah State. So I do spend some time in that community as well, down in Logan, Utah. Giving back to the community is a big thing for me, man. So, a combination of those things plus some entrepreneurship stuff that I do on the side, definitely keeping your boy busy.
Yeah, so let's talk about a little bit about the transition for you as far as you being a player and going into being an analyst.
Yeah, man. My second year in the league, I got an opportunity with this radio station, Cube 93, to host my own show, and it was called the what do we call it? We call it the Turbo Show. And I would do it every Tuesday nights on our day off. And it was cool, man. Got to talk to the fans, right? They call in, was able to bring some of my teammates into the studio as special guests and everything like that, And I always, I don't know, I was always with the microphone, and I always enjoyed interviewing people like Bobby Wagner, and I went to college together, man. And, I used to just mess around and interview him all the time. How you take your phone and just put it to somebody, you know what I mean? And so I got into it later on in my career. When I went to Indy, I was a co-host for this TV show called Sports Locker that we would host after every home game on Sundays. And so I didn't necessarily want to go the media route per se, because the word media just kind of makes me feel a little sticky, but I definitely wanted to do something in television, something in entertainment. But the transition, I got things going on now, which is cool. I mean, listen, I'm broadcasting and I'm doing some cool stuff, and I'm meeting some great people, and I get to work with some great people, but that doesn't mean the transition was easy. You know what I'm saying? The transition is very difficult, and it's very difficult for a number of reasons. A lot of us players, most of us players, I'll even say, when it's time to leave the game, it's not really on our own terms. We're not ready, or it's an injury, or it's a contract, or whatever it is. And that can be very difficult for a lot of guys. It was very difficult for me. And it wasn't so much that, a lot of times it's people assume either you're incapable of doing other things outside of football, or you don't know what you want to do when you're done. And that's why it's really important to identify that as soon as you can while you're in your career. And I've kind of made it my mission now that I've gone through some down days, particularly during the transition phase, to be a voice for those coming up after me, so that they don't have to go through those similar things that I went through as I was transitioning. And for me, I gave you a couple of examples of, what happens during the transition, or why. For me, it wasn't the fact that I didn't have the ability or the capabilities to do other things. It was more so that I wasn't ready. I didn't want to. I wanted to train. I wanted to continue to work hard and get on the field and prepare as if I was going to get an opportunity to play again. And that can be a good thing, but can also be a bad thing because you're staying ready. You see a guy like Eric Weddle get signed out of nowhere after
Yeah.
being retired for a year, right? You see it all the time. But the negative aspect of it is, you spend a year and a half, 2 years, even sometimes, right? Hoping to get another opportunity where you could have spent those 2 years getting involved into another entity, another business,
Mhm.
building your career in something else, right? Gaining experience in other ventures and things like that. And that's where a lot of the mistakes come from for us, and it's very hard to cope with and get over. It was very hard for me. I'm not ashamed to say that I had to go to therapy
Mhm.
and I had to talk to somebody about my next move, and not necessarily about the next move, but about getting over what I had just done since I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
20 years of my life, I've been a football player. When I introduce myself to people, I'm Robert Turbin. I play football, and now I don't have that, identity alongside of me anymore, and so, for a while, you kind of don't recognize yourself. You're trying to figure out who you are. And I was grateful enough to have some people in my life to say, "Hey, man, you still Turbo, man? What are you talking about? You don't have to have a pig skin in your hands, just to have an identity, And so once I was able to get over that with some help, man, things have been moving and they've been moving great. God has been good, and the juices are flowing.
Yeah, no, and that's great. And for anybody watching or listening, if you're kind of like in that stage, like, like maybe football, you can't be playing football due to injuries or whatever, the case may be. I think it's very, what you said is very important about, seeking help and, being able to talk to other people. So I just wanted to bring up that's a really excellent point for any young player out there that's, going through some issues, maybe they're not able to play the game anymore due to injury or whatever else they might be going through. But
Yeah,
let's go
my
ahead and
advice
talk about,
not to cut you off, but this is
go
an
ahead.
important point that I want to make, because my advice to the younger generation that's playing ball right now is, when you're able to make it to the professional level, you have an enormous platform um, at your fingertips. And if you utilize it correctly, the transition can become much easier. What do I mean by utilize it correctly? Well, I'll give you an example of two guys that I play with, Bobby Wagner and Tyler Lockett. I'll start with Bobby. I remember having a conversation with Bobby. We were on the phone. This might have been like 2017 or something like that. And we're in the off season. And he says, just small talk. What's up? What's going on? He says, not much, man. I'm at the office. And so when he said that, I'm thinking, he's at the facility. He probably just got done getting a workout in or whatever the case may be. I said, "Oh, you at the facility, huh? Getting your work?" And he said, "Nah, man. I'm actually just partnered with a venture capital company. And so 2 to 3 days a week, I come into the office and I work." And he said, "I got two jobs." And I said, "Wow." You know, I sat back and I thought about it. I said, "Man, that's amazing. You're talking about a guy who's a future Hall of Famer who has contractually done well for himself in the
Yeah.
NFL, but he's got two jobs." Tyler Lockett, the other example that I want to use, sold his first home as a real estate agent probably about 4 months ago from now.
Well,
He's still in the prime of his career as
Yeah.
a wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. But that's the blueprint. That's what I mean. Like preparing yourself for the transition. You can have two jobs. See, as ball players, we feel like football is the only thing that we have time for, and it's not. In the off season, you can only train for so many hours, right? 4, 5 hours, maybe if you want to include some PT, massage, whatever it is. But what are you doing the rest of the day to utilize that time? And that's really where the importance of helping your transition whenever it happens comes into play. You can have two jobs. And that's the message that I send to young players now.
Yeah, that's a great message. Hey, Robert, I just want to get your thoughts on the NFL offseason. Obviously, it's been one of the most craziest off seasons that that I can remember. As far as there's been a lot of turnover, including with your former Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, Russell Wilson's no longer there. He was traded to the Denver Broncos. Just want to get your thoughts on the offseason.
Man, what an off season it's been. It's great for like spectators like us, right? Who get to see all the movements. Usually, you only see stuff like this in the NBA. All those moving parts and trades, and so it's been an interesting off season though. And I thought the draft for most teams was great. There was a lot of great value in the draft this year. One of the better drafts that we've had in a long time. But this off season, not to highlight any one particular team, but it was certainly interesting to witness, and you were almost at the edge of your seats to figure out when the next move was coming and where guys are going to get signed, and it makes the NFL fun.
And I know there's not a winner. Well, I guess there is a winner and loser in the offseason, right? But that doesn't count to wins. But if you had to pick a team that you think really helped themselves out this offseason, who do you think that would be?
There are so many teams that helped themselves out this season, Fidel. Honestly, I mean, you think about the entire AFC West. You can pick any team. You say, hey, Denver's going to win the AFC West. The Chargers are going to win the AFC West. The Chiefs. You can pick any of those four teams, and you have a legitimate argument because of how they were able to improve their teams. I'd say probably one of the biggest losers would be the Chicago Bears, because you look at their team and their draft, and they really didn't do much to help Justin Fields at all. They made a late trade from N'Keal Harry from the Patriots, but he hasn't been great in that system, right? So we'll see how that shakes out. But listen, you mentioned Russell Wilson to the Broncos. A lot of people really feel like a quarterback was the missing piece of that team. Good defense, good defensive line, secondary, offensively, they got a great O-line. And we know what kind of weaponry they have at the receiving core as well. Now they have a Super Bowl champion quarterback in Russell Wilson, a guy who can make plays back there, who's been in big games. And so you look at the Denver Broncos with that addition, and they're looking really dangerous this season.
Robert, my last question, I'll let Kendall and Jerry chime in after. So Jimmy Garoppolo passed his physical yesterday for the San Francisco 49ers. Kyle Shanahan came out and said, hey, this is Trey Lance's team. What do you think is going to happen with Jimmy Garoppolo? Because there's a team in that division that might have an opening for a starting quarterback, and that, I mean, the Seattle Seahawks.
Right. It'll be interesting to see not what happens to Jimmy, but when. And teams are going to do their due diligence. They're going to want to maybe work him out and see how well his shoulder is doing. One of the inconsistencies in Jimmy's game has been his accuracy, right? Especially in the bigger games, especially in those playoff games. I think in his playoff career, he's 4 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, not to get statistical on you because I'm not really a stats guy, but those are the facts, and those are due to his inaccuracies and stuff like that. And so, but he is a winner at the same time. Like he has the ability to get you there. And if you have enough surrounding talent around him, he can certainly, in my opinion, get it done. So if you're the Seattle Seahawks, I think you're interested for sure. If you're the 49ers, you might be a little hesitant because you're talking about, an individual who's very smart. He don't need a contract that says he needs to study for a certain amount of hours, so he knows what the hell he's doing out there. Jimmy Garoppolo knows what he's doing out there, and so if you send him to the Seahawks, he's going to let the Seahawks know everything about your offense. If you're Kyle Shanahan, that's scary. But I think an intriguing team to me that hasn't really been talked about in the Jimmy Garoppolo conversations, like we knew about the Panthers, they went and got Baker. We know about the Texans potentially being interested, but I think the New York Giants could be a team Jimmy Garoppolo ends up playing for, especially if Daniel Jones doesn't pan out to be what they hope him to be.
Excellent point. Thanks, Robert.
Hey, Robert, appreciate you joining us, man. First off, man, that was a great opening piece by you. I mean, great. That was a great opening piece by you. The openers up there. And I want to get into DK Metcalf. What you think of his holdout right now? Well, I won't say a holdout because he's at count, but he's not his contract.
Yeah, they call it a hold in. Yeah, they call it a hold in. Listen, if the Seahawks want to keep him, they got to pay him, and he deserves to get paid something, you know. And he probably wants to get paid like one of the top receivers in the league. You know, don't know if he's one of the top receivers in the league, but he's probably, you know, top 10 or whatever the case may be. Now, if you look at their roster, I mean, offensively, he's probably got the most value, you know, outside of maybe the offensive tackle that they just drafted. I'm just talking about as far as skill position is concerned. He's your guy. You know, you still got Tyler, but he's aging. And you look at the rest of that receiving core, and you know, you got some good players, some guys that still need to prove themselves. DK has proved himself, you know. And so the Seahawks are gonna have to figure that out because in order for them to continue the trajectory that they're on, which I believe that they're on a trajectory right now, because I think they got a good young team. Now, they're not gonna get anywhere this year, but I think people really need to look out for the Seahawks coming up in 23, 24. They're going to be really dangerous. And DK Metcalf is a huge part of that, huge piece.
Interesting that you're talking about the years beyond. I want to get to Pete Carroll. How many more years do you see him coaching in Seattle? We're just coaching period.
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a good question right there, man. Because Pete, he's got that fountain of youth, you know. He's got that fountain of youth. What are we in? We're in 22. I think Pete is gonna coach at least another 5 seasons, including this one.
Wow.
Including this one. So you got 22, 23, 24, 25 might be it. 26 for sure. I think he'll hang it up after that.
I checked the age. He's 70 right now. September 15th is his birthday.
So he'll be 71.
He'll be 71.
Yeah. So I think he'll coach. I can see him coaching until he's about 75. I wouldn't you know, he'll be like the Dick LeBeau of the Seahawks. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but I wouldn't put it past him, man. He's still moving around well, and
he's still chewing that gum too.
He's still chewing that gum, man. You know what I'm saying? So, but the only reason why I say that is because listen, they got a young core. To me, once they figure out the quarterback spot, and the cornerback spot too, because they need somebody who can shut down. They're gonna make a nice run for the Super Bowl over the next 3 or 4 seasons. Like not this season, next season. Good quarterback draft class. That's why they don't really care. It's like, man, listen, if we, you know, end up having a high draft pick, we win. I think they'll win at least 7 games. Man, they'll find some nice value at the quarterback position in the draft. You never know what's going to happen in free agency.
Right.
But they're not that far away. And then listen, I mean, they can go get Jimmy Garoppolo right now. If they go get Jimmy Garoppolo right now, I put them second in the NFC West. Easy over the 49ers and the Cardinals. First of all, you got a quarterback who don't study in Arizona. And you got another quarterback in San Francisco who we don't know what we're going to get from him. I think the 49ers honestly are making a mistake by letting Jimmy Garoppolo walk this season. This season only. The future belongs to Trey. This season, though, they need Jimmy. Don't tell 49er fans I said that, though, because the last time I said that, they got on Twitter and they was F-bombing me and telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about and all types of shit. So,
hey, man. Well, they're probably watching right now, but look, probably more than half feel the same way you do.
I did get a couple. I did get a couple that were agreeing with me, but I will say, I have to admit, the majority rule for Trey Lance for sure. Like they were not, and I just couldn't understand it for the life of me. I'm like, how can you not? Like, I understand he didn't get it done in the playoffs. You were just in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, but you don't know what you got until it's gone. I think the 49 fans are a little bit high maintenance. Maybe that's not the right word to use.
No,
maybe spoiled is a better word to use. A little bit spoiled because I'll tell you right now, this boy Jimmy Garoppolo is leaving. Okay, this is the NFL, bro. This is not Wyoming or wherever the hell Trey Lance played. Okay,
appreciate it, Robert.
Real ball.
before we move in, we got a viewer. We got a viewer chiming in. How about Kenneth Walker the third as probably running back one? And what do you think of the Seahawks draft overall post Russ?
Kenneth Walker the third will be RB2 to start the season. Is that me? My bad.
Are you good, man?
Yeah, you're good.
Kenneth Walker the third will be RB2 to start the season. I think the Seahawks will give Rashad Penny, especially the way that he finished the season last year, every opportunity to be the RB number one and sustain at the RB number one. But listen, any little ankle, anything, we know that he's had injury issues over his career, but he's a great back. But I think that I know how the Seahawks move, and they're gonna push Kenneth to eventually be RB number one before the end of the season for sure. And then as far as the draft is concerned, I thought they had a great draft. They addressed the left tackle position with Charles Cross. Here's a guy that you're going to be able to have over the next 15 years at that spot. So they got some good quality players in the draft. I like the direction the Seahawks are headed in right now.
I'll say this: you kind of took a lot of the questions that I was already ready to ask you, right? But your football knowledge is insane. I love how you understand the team building concept. So let's kind of go in that direction. But before we kind of go in there, I want to ask you, as a former running back yourself, it looks like the league is kind of been putting running backs, at the back end. You know what I mean? Like now, for whatever reason, a running back is not, I guess, a first rounder, or is not the most important position, right? And obviously we understand, right? Because what the quarterbacks are making is insane at this point. But what would you say would be a great thing for future running backs or these young running backs for them to be able to get as much success out of the league as they can?
Yeah, great question. For me, you guys play Madden growing up, right?
Hey, yes, we did. I still do.
Yeah, right. And so I used to get on Madden, create a player. And when you created a player, and I used to always do running back because it was always my dream to play running back, always. And when I would create a player, right? When you create a player, you get the option of a speed back, a power back, and a balance back, right? Is it still like that?
Yeah, I think so. If not, they're like it's more.
They've
like,
tweaked it a little bit.
I'm about to say they probably done tweaked it now.
Well, they've defined it. They've really defined it.
Out of all of us, Kendall's the Madden player right here. So
Well, they've really defined each one, right? So it's crazy how
right. And so I would always pick balanced because I always wanted to be a combination of both speed and power. And so what I always prided my game on is, people would ask me, what kind of back are you? What's your style? I don't really, I'm an all everything. I'm an every down back because I can run the ball between the tackles and I have the speed to go outside. I can catch the ball out of the backfield. I can line up in the slot and run a route. I can pass protect. And so, with the way that the league is going right now, you want to be like, okay, obviously you're going to be, listen, not everybody's going to have the capability to do everything, but you want to be able to work your game for you to be able to do as much as you can from the backfield. So that's running the ball with power, speed, definitely catching the ball out of the backfield because that's what teams are kind of leaning towards right now. You got to be able to make plays out of the backfield, catch the football. You see a guy like Najee Harris is huge, right? And he can pound a rock and he can make guys miss. But where the cherry on top is for him is his ability to win one-on-one matchups in the passing game. I mean, I don't think Ben Roethlisberger threw the ball to anybody more than Najee Harris. You look at a guy like Alvin Kamara, same way. CMC up in Carolina. So you want to have some diversity to your game as you're coming up as a young running back. If you just focus on running the ball, you're wrong.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, now you got wide receivers that are, you know, chiming in and trying, I guess, not taking the spotlight, but they're taking some carries away now too. I mean, Debo is probably one of the most notable now. All teams it looks like are looking for another Debo Samuel. So that's always great advice to get, and especially from somebody who played running back in the NFL. So let's kind of let's kind of get one more question as far as you personally. How was your Super Bowl experience? I mean, if you could just, I mean, allow us to imagine it. How was it? What were the feelings,
Yeah.
especially afterwards, man? I mean, when you know you won.
Yeah, no, listen, I've talked about this. When I was a young kid, I always, I guess, fantasized, for lack of a better word, about New York City, Broadway, the
Mm.
lights. I was always attracted to just bright lights. My Twitter handle used to say, you know, how you give your location. It used to say big games and bright lights. You know, now it says airplanes and back streets, but uh and so, you know, like, man, like movies like Home Alone 2 and shit like that, like, you know, I'm like, man, like I want to go to New York one day, you know. I always fantasize about that. And so for my first experience to be for my first New York City experience to be the Super Bowl was like, you couldn't, I mean, you couldn't have written it out any better than that for me. I mean, you talking about a young kid fantasizing about New York City, never been there, always wanted to go. It was lit up more than it normally is because of the Super Bowl, man. So it was just an amazing experience. Like, I mean, like, listen, we were just invincible that night. You know what I mean? Like, after the game, want to talk about after the game, you know, listen, I got like 14-year-old nephew hopping up, you know, rolling with me in the club, not even getting checked or nothing. You know what I'm saying? We mobbing, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, we was just doing whatever. You know, New York was super lit. It was one of the most memorable nights that I could ever have in my life, man. From winning the game to being with my family to going out that night to the plane ride back to Seattle after. Some things I can't disclose as far as what was going on and shit like that. But it was lit, and that, you know, and I'll leave it at that for sure.
Hey man, but congratulations. I mean, not everybody can say, you know, Super Bowl champion, and you can say Super Bowl champion.
Hey,
Yeah.
Robert, you are talking about your experience the first Super Bowl against the Broncos, right?
The first one,
Okay.
yeah. I
Okay,
know you're a Patriots fan over there, man. And,
just want to
you
make
know,
it.
listen, you know what's funny is we don't we don't take no, like, as players, you know how normally, like for 49er fans, right? They a little salty with us because, you know, we were in some dog fights in the
Yep.
playoffs. For real. We were in some
Yeah.
dog fights in the playoffs and we came out on top, right?
Yeah.
That game was a dog fight, but as players, we like, man, congratulations, bro, because we did everything we could as players. That's how we feel. We not even like the loss hurts, but it would have hurt. It would be more hurtful if we actually felt like it was in our hands as the players.
Yeah.
We don't really feel like that, bro. Like, we, you know, like when Patriots fans, they try to talk smack, I'm like, bro, that don't even, my feelings aren't even hurt from y'all. I'm more hurt about our own selves. Really, that's the part that hurts because everybody know what we should have did, but the fact that we didn't do it, I can't control that. That ain't our fault. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we don't, like, man, I tell you what, man, like, I remember losing in the state championship game in high school. I lost the semifinals my senior year. I remember going to a bowl. We went to our first bowl game in college in 2011 in 30 plus years as an institution, and we lost by a touchdown.
Mm.
Those games hurt way more than that loss in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. Don't you know? I'm like, you can talk as much smack as you. I'm talking smack with you. To be honest, I feel like a Patriot, damn near.
Hey,
You know what I'm
Robert,
saying?
I mean, what do you think of the play call though? I mean, obviously we know what should have happened, but essentially when you saw everything lined up and everything unfolded, what did you think? What were your initial thoughts?
I didn't think, you know what I mean? Because I'm not gonna like bash the coaching staff or nothing like that. It's all good. It is what it is. But when we broke the huddle, I think everybody in their minds felt like we were gonna run the ball. When we broke the huddle, we were in shotgun. In my mind, I said, okay, we're in shotgun. We must be running read zone, which is give the ball to Marshawn on the inside zone, or Russell's going to pull it and go around the corner. I would have bet everything in my life that was the call like without a doubt. And I'm sure that there were other guys on the sidelines who felt the same way.
Yeah.
Like the play before was outside zone under center. Mike Robb in the game, fullback, or maybe he was in a single back. We get 9 yards down to the 1 yard line, right? Okay. So we break the huddle this time. We in shotgun. I'm like, okay, we're running read zone for sure. Like it's like no doubt. You feel me? And he pulled up to pass the ball, and it's just, the rest is history. You feel me? And so that part of it hurts, but you have to give the Patriots a lot of credit, especially because the play came off, like the play that they made defensively came off film study. You have to appreciate that. They knew when we lined up in that formation, there were only a couple plays that we ran out of that. And so they were able to anticipate that ahead of time from film study. And from that standpoint, you got to tip your hat, man. You got to tip your hat to the Patriots for that. That's dope.
And a lot of people don't know, but Brendan Browner made that play. Former Seahawk Brendan Browner, he got the jam. I forgot the receiver. I don't know if it was Curse or somebody. He got the jam on him, and then Malcolm Butler made the play.
Yeah. And Brandon Browner, and Malcolm, he talked about seeing it on film, but Brandon, Brandon has seen the play up close and personal as a Seahawk. You feel me? That was always one of our bread and butters down there in the goal line area, man. So, usually we would only do it during on a 2-point conversion, but we decided to throw it in, and that's what it is.
Great insight on the polarizing play. And yes, it is. And it's crazy. I read a book, right? Written by Michael Lombardi. He's been a general manager for a couple teams in the NFL. But that book, it's called Gridiron Genius. He's talking about Bill Parcells. Okay. And he said exactly that they brought in that. In fact, I think that Malcolm Butler got benched. I believe the play before, because he allowed them to get that far, or he allowed you guys to get an insight that deep into that close to the end zone. And so, but he specifically, they rushed him back outside because they knew that he could make that play, because they knew exactly the play that you guys were going to run, because it was all film study from Bill Parcells, which is great insight, that knowing that, that, hey, it wasn't by chance or by luck. It was by film study.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you can see it. It jumps off the tape. Malcolm anticipated that. Brandon knew that what he needed to do, which was to be physical. He's always been a physical corner. That was actually one of the things that made him great, And so he's like, listen, if I can jam up Curse right here and he can't get to where he needs to get, Malcolm is going to jump it, and that's what happened. And so, yeah, for us as players of Seahawks, man, we look at that, you like, man, you got to tip your hat to that, man. I'm not even mad. I'm not mad at all. It is what it is. Now, the locker room after the game, that could be a 30 for 30 itself. I'm not going to get into details about what that was going on, because that's private. That's in the locker room. But I will say it was more crazy than any reality. You want to talk about reality show TV? It was the locker room. It was the visiting team locker room after that loss, for sure. It was some crazy shit going on in there, for
Well,
sure.
you guys did have some big time names. I mean, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas. I mean, these names are, you know what I'm saying, like they're well known. They've made news recent. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah, we have some personalities.
yeah, the personalities are for real.
Yeah.
Michael Bennett.
MB, yeah. I mean, listen, Bruce. I mean, come on. The list goes on and on. It just messed up the whole vibe, man. Because I love me some Arizona. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, I trained in Arizona for the combine, coming out as a rookie. I still had connections out there. Like, I used to go to Arizona all the time, especially early in my career in the off season. Like, AZ was my spot, bro.
Yeah.
So we like, man, we about to get this stuff. AZ about to be lit. It's not like New York, but AZ low key goes hard. You know what I mean? It's like, man, it messed up the whole vibe. We wasn't even trying to do nothing, you know, like just like we got the homies and the family in town. We just trying to like, and we thinking like in my mind, I'm like, man, don't think this person. I'm like, don't nobody want to party with the Patriots, man. Don't nobody want to party with the Patriots. They even got, you just mentioned all the names we had on our team. Like they, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, bruh. Like it'd have been lit with us. Like Patriots, like, oh, they cool, you know, whatever. You know what I'm saying? They go out in their suits and ties and shit. You know what I mean? Like, man, it would have been lit. It's all good though. It's all good.
Yeah, I think you said it well, man. And then you're like, just to kind of go back on Brandon Brown. I mean, that guy's huge, 6'4", I believe.
He was a
Right?
big dude, man. I
6'4".
remember he told me when I was a rookie, he was like, yeah, man. He used to talk super aggressive. Yeah, man. He was like, Turbo, man, you got a lot of power. You just don't know it yet, man. You don't even know what you got right now yet, but you'll learn. You'll learn. You know, he used to like kind of, you know, take me under his wing a little bit. Like Brandon was cool, man. Hella funny. He used to talk super aggressive all the time. Yeah, man, you know, went outside, man, went upstairs, got something to eat. I'm like, bro, why are you talking like so aggressively all the time like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's cool. Calm down.
I was trying to jump into the draft class, but now that you remind me, that it's crazy because I remember hearing that Brandon Browner and Darrell Revis actually got into an actual. They were teammates, I believe, with the Patriots,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
they threw blows. They threw blows. I don't.
Yeah, BB was always ready to throw blows with somebody. That's
I don't know who won, man, but for Darrell Revis,
he was always ready to throw blows with somebody.
that was crazy. But you guys do have some reminiscence, right? It looks like this year the Seahawks did concentrate on rebuilding that secondary. Tariq Woolen. Wow. I mean, he's from UTSA, kind of that's like a 3.5 hour drive north of where I live in Texas. San Antonio is the sixth largest city in the United States. So that's Tariq Woolen. You guys drafted him, I believe, in the 5th round. I thought he was going to go 2nd round, but I mean, he's at almost 6'4", and he ran, I think, a 4.26 in the 40. He's a converted wide receiver, so I expect big things for him, and that's going to be a name that to for a lot of the 12s to pay attention to this season. I think that he's going to play often and early.
Yeah, we'll see how he fares. You know, we'll see how he fares. We know that Sherm was a 6th-round pick, and so you can find great value later in the draft. Kobe Bryant was another guy at the cornerback position that the Seahawks drafted, and a lot of people, he seems to be really confident in himself, and a lot of people are high on him. But we're talking about rookies, you know, and so you know you got to go out there, you got to do it, you got to prove yourself, and you have to be able to do it day in and day out because the league is infamous on the fact that when they say you know, when they say you know, it's about today, it really is. It really is. Like, well, you could have had a great practice yesterday. It don't matter what you're gonna do today. And so it'll be interesting to see how those rookies how they fare.
For sure. And just to, I guess, end it all, I guess if you can, tell us a little bit about running for you.
Yeah. So um my two older sisters, one passed away when she was 21. She had MS. I was a young boy. I was about 5. And my other older sister was born with a severe form of cerebral palsy. And so she couldn't bend at the waist or move any of her limbs or anything like that. She could only move her head side to side, and she couldn't speak either. She was like a baby basically her entire life. And so she would just kind of make noise like a baby, laugh, cry, make noise and things like that. And her life expectancy was only 5 years. But she recently passed away in 2019. She lived till she was 39 years old, actually. And so she was the strongest person in our family. And so my foundation is geared towards supporting people with those 2 diseases, just because, I grew up, I live with those, diseases affecting my family and being a part of my family my entire life. And so, that's what we do. I support other charities that are supporting the same causes, and I do a ton of charity events both in my hometown and my alma mater up in Logan, Utah, like I mentioned. And I just love spending time with the community, giving back. And it's cool because we do this basketball event, and I'm not going to get too much into it because I'll talk about it forever. But like the head coaches for both teams will be like somebody who has cerebral palsy or MS, and we give them some notoriety and stuff like that, throughout the game and especially after the game. And we it's cool. The alumni is involved. It's an alumni game, and we have like one special guest that we invite to be a part of the team. And Frank Gore came the first year. He was our special guest the first year. Russell Wilson was the guest second year, and Bobby Wagner came the third year, along with my boy Will Clay, who's a 4-time Olympian for the USA track team. And then we had to cancel for 2 years because of COVID, but we just brought it back this last year. And we weren't able to secure a special guest, but we are looking forward to year number 5 this upcoming March 23, man. So amongst other events that we do, man. So it's a blessing to be able to be in position to give back to your community.
Robert Turble, it was a true pleasure. Thank you for all the great insights, man. I really appreciated my time with you. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks, fellas. Thanks for having me, man. Till next
Robert,
time.
thank you so much for hopping on with us for a little bit and chatting, and hoping we can catch up with you during the football season. And thank you, everyone out there, for watching and listening. Have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care, fellas.
You too.